Crazy art, super washable markers. Super washable. That means they're water soluble, right? Holy bojangles, this actually works. Whoa. Hello, I'm Zaccura and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am taking on the Cheap Art Supply Challenge. And please excuse my voice, I am getting over a cold, so I'm a little congested, got the snifflies. So today's video was actually wasn't really going to be the Cheap Art Supply Challenge. I was just wanted to try something funky with these like school markers that I found, because they said super even washable, even more washable than normal, and I was just thinking about it, and then I thought, like, wait a minute, washable markers, even if they're not super washable, but any washable markers, that means that they dissolve in water, and if they're dissolvable in water, that means you should be able to paint with them like watercolor. So I tested it out on the paper, and you saw it in the intro, you saw my reaction there. It actually works, and so I decided to do the video based on it. And I figured, you know what, since I'm using really cheap markers, why not do the whole challenge and make everything really cheap art supplies. So as usual, I'm using my party favorite pencil, and the paper was yet another scrap piece of watercolor paper that I used for some of my Inktober drawings. Yes, Inktober will never end. It will keep on popping up one way or another in my videos. This is the life. This is how it's going to be. But anyway, yes, that watercolor paper that was really huge that I used for the first few days was actually really cheap watercolor paper. It was actually for kids. I think the brand was like Kids Made Modern or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it is a child grade watercolor paper. It's pretty low quality and it's very inexpensive. So I decided, yeah, okay, we have a scrap piece of this, and it was kind of long, so I decided to sketch out the drawing that would use up the whole piece of paper. So I decided to make her draw this girl with her hair blowing so that it would take up all the space. Then for the lining, for the outline, I used a Sharpie pen, and this is actually a tool that I mentioned in one of my much older videos. I think it was my 2-part tutorial series on how to draw your own manga girl, and I talked about using the Sharpie pen as a fine liner because it actually works okay with Copic markers. It doesn't smudge very much unless you really saturate it with the Copic markers, and it does seem to be pretty waterproof, but definitely not fade proof. Even just right out of the pen onto the paper, you can tell it's not completely black. It is gray, and it doesn't really matter how much you go over it, it will always look a little bit gray. It's not the same as, you know, I'm spoiled with India ink now because I use that for Inktober. It's also definitely not even as dark as microns, so yeah, it's not something I'd use on a daily basis now that I use microns. But hey, you know, there you go, I'm recommending it. If you ever come across this pen, this Sharpie pen, it's not so bad. You may want to actually give it a try and see if it works for you. Of course, they don't have any other sizes. I'd say the nib size is similar to maybe the 03 for the microns, so it's a pretty good size, but it's definitely not, you know, a micron fine liner, but it works okay. So yeah, you can give it a try if you don't want to invest in the fine liners. Then after everything was inked out, I erased all of the pencil underneath the Sharpie pen line, and then I taped down the paper, and then I got started with my crazy art super washable markers that now come in super brighter colors, by the way. Way to go, crazy art, for your wonderful grammar. Super brighter colors. Wonderful. Anyway, so I was really tentative with it at first because I was new to this technique of using markers for watercolor. So for the skin especially, I didn't have any colors. It came with like these really vibrant colors that are almost like neon almost. So I chose orange for the skin, and I just put a really tiny amount, and then I just took my brush and dipped it into some water and started spreading it around. And then after, I think the skin was actually the best part of the drawing, to be honest, because I was so tentative with it. But after seeing that it worked out so well, I kind of just got more confident with these markers, and I started just putting a lot more and putting a lot more water onto the paper. And that's when I found out the true problem of the cheap art supplies that I used. Actually, it wasn't the markers so much as it was the paper. In order to get the markers to really comply and smudge around, I had to use a lot of water and a lot of scrubbing with the brush on the paper. And the paper did not like that. It started shedding and breaking and just getting all hairy and stuff. And yeah, that's what happens when you use lower quality watercolor paper. That tends to happen. It starts to just break apart and dissolve, really. And yeah, and it was kind of unfortunate because things were working out pretty well, as I could see, especially with the hair. And I was like really afraid to use it, and then I started working out pretty well, so I just kind of, oh yeah, alright, I'll just do this, and I did all the hair, and I thought it looked okay, and then I started working on other things, and then like 5 minutes I started noticing that the hair, like, it just started, the ink was just bleeding everywhere, and it looked really really like not sharp, just really bad and stuff, and I tried to save it. But yeah, so it was actually the paper that was the hardest thing to deal with for this illustration. The markers actually did blend quite well, which was really surprising. The lack of colors was, I guess, a problem, but I made do with them, and if I were to do this on a better paper, I think it actually would have came out even better. But in the end, I did kind of have to save this drawing by taking out my Sharpie pen again and just putting a lot of black outlines to try and pull it off. Like, oh yeah, the ink that bled over there, yeah, that was on purpose. That was totally foreseen. Yes. Added a tiny bit of cross-hatching with the black Sharpie pen, and that kind of saved it in the end. But overall, yeah, the paper just couldn't handle putting so much water and the abuse that I did with all the scrubbing and stuff. So yeah, so I kind of made do with all the colors. I didn't use all the colors. I didn't use the brown or the black, and I think those were the only colors I didn't use. Everything else I think I used. It came with one red, one pink, an orange, a yellow, a blue, and 2 greens. That was one thing that was very interesting. I was like, ooh, there's 2 greens. I gotta do something with this. So I ended up just using both greens in the hat, and that worked out pretty well. Oh, there was also one purple, excuse me, and I used that in the hair to blend in with the blue. The orange worked pretty well for the skin. It ended up looking a little bit too yellow once it was watered down, so I tried adding a teensy bit of red in there, but I was like really afraid because the red very quickly started to look like blood, and and so I just smudged it out, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm leaving the skin as it is. And to be honest, I think the skin is the best part. The shirt was an absolute disaster. Again, the paper just couldn't handle all the smudging, and it just bled everywhere. And also me being really impatient, I didn't let everything dry before starting the next part, so part of the hair bled into the shirt, and so there was this blue into the red, which made this purple, and it was just a mess. But yeah, that's more my fault than the tools. I don't know, I'm just so impatient. I think that's why I always tend to struggle with watercolors, because I just can't wait for the layers to dry like you're supposed to. I think I'm gonna probably try this challenge again in the future in a way that you're kind of more supposed to do it with like lots of different art supplies, but this one was just really testing out these markers in this really funky way that I came up with. So there you go, you can use washable markers as watercolor. Hooray! As for the background, I didn't really know what to put in the background, but I did want to put something, so I just drew these like dandelion fluff things. That's what I imagined them as, these dandelion fluff thingies. But then I was like, I didn't know what color to make them because I didn't want to just leave them white, so I just kind of randomly put some like red and blue and whatever. I don't know. I just so it ended up looking kind of gray. And then I put the yellow in the page to try to show like, oh, there's this yellow light coming in. Yes, hooray. At the very end, when I was trying to save it with the Sharpie pen, I also took out some like colored pencils. I think they were Crayola colored pencils. So yeah, you know, still in the realm of cheap art supplies, wasn't cheating. After I saw the ink bleeding everywhere from the water, I just got really afraid to use the markers again. So I just put some final details using the Crayola colored pencil, such as the blushies in the face, just really slightly, some yellow in the eyes, and just some shading in the white parts of the eyes, just really simple things like that, because I was not feeling very confident about using those markers again. One thing I noticed is that after this drawing was finished, it actually really reminded me of one of my OCs, except with a green hat. Maybe I'll put a little a pop-up here of where I'll show my OC, because she also has blue hair and she also wears a hat, and her facial features are actually pretty similar. I found like her overall face shape was pretty similar, so it's like her in a different world. Just, I don't know, a sister, a cousin. Although I'll probably say that for every blue-haired girl, it's just gonna be like, yeah, Bulma is her sister too. Oh gosh, okay, yeah. So overall, I think it came out pretty well considering the supplies that I used. There were definitely some mistakes that I didn't foresee and problems arise with the paper, but overall, I think it came out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out considering the situation. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it though, so let me know what you thought about this drawing and this challenge. And I actually had quite a lot of fun with it. It was fun to, you know, use markers as watercolor. Watercolor markers. It's a new genre. Yes. So I think that's all I have to say for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it entertaining in any way. And if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. As always, the links to my social media pages are in the description box where you can follow me for daily updates. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya!